Everyone, welcome to Learning Space. I am Nicole Gugliucci, postdoc with CosmoQuest. This is our weekly show on all things astronomy, education, and outreach, learning, sharing, space, all kinds of fun topics along those lines. So thanks for joining us again. I have with me my co-host, Georgia Bracey.
Hi there.
Hello. And we are joined by Alice Olmstead.
Hello.
Hi.
So I have a sign.
Oh yes, we have an analog lower third, so y'all can see that. If anyone knows how to make lower third work on a mobile device, let us know. Otherwise, that is awesome. That is awesome.
Hi everyone, welcome to Learning Space.
Oh, there's an echo, Georgia. Georgia, I'm getting an echo from your side.
Okay, how's that?
I think that's better. I'll let you know. Okay. Woohoo! Okay, so let you guys know to share the link, and we thank you for that. Also, if you want to comment, you can comment on the event page on Google Plus where this is airing, and any place shared from that should show up as well in our comment tracker. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can leave a comment there, and we'll be watching the YouTube stream as well. Comment tracker does not pick up the Twitter feed automatically, but I will be keeping an eye on the Learning Space hashtag if you want to leave us a comment, leave us a question, whatever. Let us know what's going on. Just got a comment from Charles Bell on the event page about some breaking news, which we will definitely cover this story in the Weekly Space Hangout on Friday, but a quick mention is that NASA's infrared telescope, the WISE mission, has been put back into service to look for near-Earth asteroids. So, yay, protecting the planet! That news just broke all over Twitter, the Twitter sphere. So, thank you, Charles, for that notification, and we'll cover that on Friday for sure. I can't imagine talking about having a big asteroid story and not having Fraser Cain want to talk about it. So. Okay, so on to the main topic for today's show. We are talking to Alice about Astrobites, which is a popular astronomy blog. See, hold on again. Astrobites. You can check out the website at astrobites.com. I've got a link on the event page as well. We'll put it in the show notes too. So Alice, why don't you tell us a little bit about what it is you do, where you are, what your position is, and then tell us a little bit about Astrobites.
Sure. So I'm a fourth-year graduate student in astronomy at the University of Maryland. I am sort of in a weird place right now, so I decided to do education research instead of normal astronomy research. So I've been in a little bit of a transition right now.
Cool, very cool.
Figuring that stuff out. But before that, I was studying galaxies and star formation and gravitational lensing and all this really awesome stuff.
Yeah.
But as far as Astrobites, so I started writing for Astrobites about a year after the whole thing got started. So it's a blog that's for undergraduates. Most of our posts are summarizing literature from the astronomy journals at a level that's more appropriate for undergraduate physical science majors. So people who are interested in astronomy, might want to go into that themselves, but are still very intimidated by the astronomical literature, which can be really, really dense to go through.
Yeah.
I think all of the authors have sort of experienced that, and that's been a big drive for why the site was created. So I just sort of emailed them at one point and said, hey, I'd like to write with you guys, and at that point it was a little informal, so they basically said okay, and I started writing for them for a year and a half. So we have about 30 grad students at a time. Everyone writes one post a month, all volunteer, and it's just, sort of digesting the astronomical news and writing it in a way that's much easier for people to access. So I just got myself into that, and it's been really fun writing and editing other people's stuff.
That's awesome.
How long does it take to read a paper and write up the post for you typically?
For me, probably a couple of days, depending on how fast I'm being. So I can usually write it in a day and then have another day to edit it, and that tends to be enough. So yeah, it takes some time. I've gotten faster over the year and a half, but yeah.
How do you guys choose the paper that you're going to write about?
So for me, originally I would just comb through the whole archive myself, and for the last week or so beforehand, and look for things that Basically, I'd find a paper that I knew why it was interesting. So if I could read sort of the introduction and the conclusions and say in a couple sentences, like, this is why the paper is exciting and this is why the paper is important, then I would usually write about it. As I got lazier, sometimes I would go on Vox Charta, which is the online voting site for the archive. So this is something that the University of Maryland uses for our Astro PH discussion.
Oh, wait, what is this called? I'm not.
It's Vox Charta, VOXCHARTA. Vox Charta.
Yeah.
But yes, so you can see if you click, you can go to your institution, but you can also see votes from all institutions that are using this site. And so that's one way that I can find out what other people think are interesting in that week if I don't have time to go through the whole archive. And I sometimes pick from there.
Can you explain what archive is
Yes,
and what Astro PH is for
yes,
some of our listeners?
That was a little jargony.
No, it's
I realized that while I was saying it. But no, so the archive is just where people post their own papers. So sometimes people wait until their papers are approved by the journal. So you send in a paper, it gets refereed, you edit it, and then you eventually get it approved by the journal. So some people will wait until it's approved, and some people will just do it as soon as they send it to the editor. It's kind of a personal preference thing.
Yeah.
So I also usually try to look for things that have already been vetted by the referee before I write something about it. But yeah, so there's just a huge influx of papers. I mean, there's at least 50 papers probably a day go up there, so it's a lot for everyone to read. So yeah, this is just where everyone pulls from, is looking at the archive. And AstroPH is just the server, I guess, that has all the papers on it.
Yeah, that's the astronomy specific ones, because there's a bunch
Right.
of physics topics that are not astronomy as well.
That's right.
And the neat thing about archive, so archive is ARXIV. It is all of these papers are available for free. They're not behind a paywall because they're technically preprints. It's before it's ready for journal. Although it's the same journal quality stuff, so it's really good. If it is technically accessible, but whether or not the language is accessible is another story. Charles Bell comments, those astronomy journals are tough reading. I wish they could each do a video and explain it in their own words. What do you?
Yeah, that would be great. I saw something. I wish I remembered which school did this, but I know some school does like videos when their grad students publish papers, and they'll do a little like 5-minute video of their grad students talking about the paper.
Oh, okay.
It's called like Coffee Talk or something. So if you Google that, you might figure out what institution.
Talk astronomy.
Interesting.
There's astronomy coffee at OSU. I don't think that's the same one. I do remember this idea coming up during the Hack Day event at the last winter astronomical American Astronomical Society meeting. I don't know if it went forward, but some people were talking about doing that.
Yeah, I think there's an Astrobetter post about this. That's probably where I read it.
Okay, Astrobetter is another really great blog. It's written by astronomers, kind of about the profession of astronomy and ways to improve the field. So yeah, check that out too if you're interested. Okay, so you said you have about 30 writers at Astrobites.
Yes.
And I remember the site going live early on, and you guys got a big bump from Bad Astronomer Phil Plait, and so that was pretty cool. What is your main driver of traffic?
So Phil Plait is still probably our biggest. Was our biggest bump. I try to remember everything was on the poster that I just did. But sometimes like other like web references, Twitter. We just started a Tumblr actually, which is new. So yes, we started a Tumblr of astronomy plots, like famous astronomy plots, and describing them. So that should hopefully draw in some people. But some of it's word of mouth, and a lot of our readers are not undergraduates, so it was designed to be for undergraduates. But a lot of our readers ended up being, research scientists and other graduate students who don't have time to read the whole archive themselves, or who just want to, hear about a couple papers every week. So that's actually our main, group of people is more graduate students and researchers, which is kind of nice.
Do you track which blog posts get, the most hits, or like your most popular posts or most popular papers that have been written about, anything like that?
Yeah, well, most of our most popular posts will be like the career kind of talks. So sometimes, our everyday posts are summarizing these astronomical papers, but we'll also have posts about like how to go to a conference, or I wrote a post when I decided to switch into education, like about making that decision. And so those posts end up being very, very popular. I think those are our top hits.
Okay.
Or there was one that was like the top 10 papers of 2012 or something that was really popular too. Like these, sort of big draw things. But we can see all the statistics of what people are doing.
And how many readers do you have a sense of regular readers?
I'm not sure about number of readers. I know our page views is about 30,000 page views a month.
Wow.
So it's pretty good. And that's just from the people who actually go to the site. So it's probably a bit more than that because a lot of people read it on their RSS feeds and that sort of thing. I don't remember a number of viewers. I should, but I don't know. It's a little hard to track.
Yeah. Guido Bibra, hello, says, yes, to admit, Astrobites is indeed rather heavy reading for non-scientists. Some topics I can follow, some not. But sometimes I find something interesting that captivates me. So that's pretty cool. It's going, even though, like you said, your reader poll showed you that a lot of your readers were grad students and researchers. There's undergrads reading it and just people in the public as well who are enjoying it. So that's pretty cool too.
Yeah, and I think some educators also tend to read it. So people who are doing, astronomy education or like high school education, people who have a little bit of a background, that's another chunk of readership.
Do you think that Astrobites is a good way for undergrads to get into the field or to start to understand how scientific papers work or are written?
Definitely. I mean, I think that's the main goal of the site, is to do that, to help people, read some papers with some help and get background, and then they can hopefully go out on their own and read these papers by themselves. So even if they find a paper that hasn't been summarized by us, there's so many posts up right now that you can go and search for a topic, and you can start to get an idea of what that topic is like just by reading our posts. So we hope that that's what it's doing for the undergrads who are reading it.
Okay.
Well, I bet writing for it is actually a really good experience. Do you guys talk to each other and get a sense of, what you're learning about writing papers by actually writing about the papers?
So it's funny for me, I haven't actually met most of the people who write for Astrobites in person.
Oh, interesting.
Because we do everything online.
Yeah.
So for me, it's kind of weird. Like there's only a couple of people that I've really met. But the ones who I do know, have had that experience where it definitely helped me as a writer to be much more proficient and much better at explaining things without all this jargon. I know a bunch of people did get together, so there was a communicating science conference, ComSciCon, that some of the people at Harvard organized, and I couldn't go, but a lot of the Astrobites people were there, and some other science graduate students went, and that was a really good thing. I think that'll probably happen again at some point. So yeah, that was just, writing workshops, and they had a bunch of guest speakers come and talk about how science journalism and how to get into it. And I think it was really good. So I'm sad I couldn't go.
Yeah, I saw that advertised when it first came out, ComSciCon, and I was very sad because it sounded like a great thing that I would have done as a grad student, and I had just stopped being a grad student, so it was like, oh no! So I sent it to all my friends at University of Virginia, who did that as well. So that sounds like that. It's part of almost a growing movement among grad students, undergrads, young professionals in astronomy, getting more interested in communication and education. Maybe do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I see that too. I think with social media too, I think it's this young people thing to be on social media, and I think maybe that's driving a little bit of the outreach idea too. But I definitely feel like the younger generation is more into outreach than maybe some of the older generation, and I think that's great. I mean, I hope that continues the way it's going.
Oh, I just found the link for Astroplots.
Astroplots, yes, our new thing. This is as of last month. So this is an undergrad student at BU emailed us, Boston University, to say hey, what if you guys did a Tumblr with plots? And so, sorry.
Oh,
I
that's fine.
disappeared for a second. Okay. So yeah, so this was just someone's suggestion, and people took it up. You know, we have our listserv is really active. So when you email the Astrobites, you know, internal listserv, usually someone will take up whatever task you want very quickly. So this just happened, like it just made itself.
Oh
So
wow, you've got the
fun.
classic Hubble plot.
Yes.
showing showing distance and velocity. There you go. So that's straight up astronomy history right there.
Yep.
That's really exciting. Okay, I'll share the link to that as well. So that's astrobites.tumblr.com.
Yes.
And so those look like little shorter examples as far as the writing goes, and so that is something that could be shared a little bit more easily, maybe.
Yeah.
Have you found have there been anything about doing journal clubs virtually? I know this is a topic I've heard about. Is this something that Astrobites has been getting involved in?
I don't know if any of us are involved in doing that. I mean,
Okay.
I know those things exist. And yeah, we have our journal club at Maryland, which is totally separate from Astrobites stuff.
Right,
But it's still
right.
convenient for me because I can say, if I don't have time to read papers, I can just look at the 5 from Astrobites for the week and say, oh, I'll talk about this one.
That is very helpful.
But I don't know much about the virtual journal clubs.
Okay.
But I think, yeah, Astrobites we have a pretty good range of what, science people are expert in and what science will write about. So I think, yeah, we cover a lot of stuff. Hopefully a broad range of things for people.
Do you have any trouble getting people to participate and write for you? And how is it kind of word of mouth? Do people kind of hear about it and then just want to help out?
It's been, it was word of mouth for a while. So I was one of the last couple of people who just volunteered and got grandfathered in. And then we realized we had so many authors that we needed to have like an actual hiring process.
Oh,
so
wow.
we're in the process of that now. So people can write for 2 years and then you sort of retire yourself.
You need to write your thesis and graduate.
Retirement. So we just had one of those. So we're doing a hiring call for October, and we're emailing all the graduate programs. So we're starting to do that right now, just sort of getting the word out to recruit graduate students. So,
oh, cool.
So hopefully we'll get a bunch of new people. We did that a few months ago, and that was really successful. So.
Okay. So what are you going to look for? Do they have to send like a little writing sample or?
Yeah. So they basically just write an astrobite.
They do one. Okay.
So yeah, they'll write their own astrobite and then write about why they want to do it. A little typical personal statement kind of thing.
Okay.
Explaining what they want to do. But I think the main task is just writing the astrobite, getting it out there, and then if we hire them, then they can just use that as their first post.
Okay.
That's really cool. And there's no, I'm assuming here, there's no financial benefit to writing for Astrobites. Right?
There's no financial benefit whatsoever.
There's not even free food involved, which is like the currency of grad school. But you get something interesting to put on your CV, and you get the experience as well. I mean, this is really good educational experience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really fun, and everyone I talk to it's just a great thing to be able to talk about, doing this outreach stuff and.
Well, you guys
have
have
a wide audience.
Meet at a conference or something and have a big Astrobite party.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much usually some of us are at every AAS, so whoever's there will meet each other. So I've met a couple of people that way. I mean, I met Susanna. I guess we had met at one AAS, and then we were both at the Astronomical Society Pacific meeting, and so we met again. So yeah, we tend to gravitate towards each other when we can.
Yes, very important.
Very cool.
Do you have a favorite post that either you've written or that somebody else has written that was really insightful or weird?
I think the favorite thing that I've written, if I can be egotistical, so I think my favorite thing to write was one about confirming general relativity on the sun, which was just fun because I had no idea going into writing this paper, like anything about the topic. Like I barely know about GR, I've never taken a GR class. It's, solar spectroscopy, stuff that I'm really not used to. So I had to do a lot of background to get this post together, but the paper just grabbed me. Like it seemed really interesting that these people had verified GR on the sun. I was like, we haven't done that yet? Like, when did we discover GR? So it seemed like this really cool, confirmation that came, much after GR came about. So yeah, I went and I did all this reading and I started putting things together, and that was really fun to write, and I think it turned out well, and I had a much better sense at the end of it, like how people did this. So that was probably my favorite thing to write. It took more time than the other posts, but I just happened to have that time, and so I said I'm going to go and I'm going to learn how this works.
Yeah, challenging.
Cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Great. That is really cool. Trying to think of any other. We're gonna do a little station identification. If you guys have any questions or comments, please let us know in the YouTube comments if you're watching on YouTube, on the comment thread at Google Plus. Yes, on the Google Plus event page. Or on Twitter, if you are using the hashtag #LearningsSpace, I will be checking that periodically as well. So Charles Bell just plugged Astrobites on the Facebook fan page for Comets and Asteroids, which has almost 4,000 fans. So yay! Thank you. And we have a comment from Grepoan on YouTube. I'm a grad student at UMD2, and I like to read Astrobites because the esoteric nature of each subfield is still bewildering to other astronomers outside those subfields. That is so true. Yeah, just doing research in astronomy doesn't mean you understand the jargon of another subfield of astronomy.
That was really amazing to me too. It's you do get a glimpse as to how much is out there, and nobody knows it all. You know, it's just it's wild. It's wild.
Yeah, you think when you enter grad school that you'll understand everything about astronomy. Once you get your degree, but no, that's just not true.
No,
how much you don't know.
Yes. That is what grad school teaches you. How much you don't know.
You don't know things.
You need to, I remember them telling us that we needed to at least be able to, go to any colloquium, any of the astronomy colloquia, and follow mostly what's going on. Like, that was their goal, which hopefully people are using much more colloquial language in talks, although that's not always the case. There's a lot of jargon in talks as well.
Yeah.
So, question that just flew from my mind.
So, Alice, you talked about jargon a lot, right? So, I guess that's probably a big part of when you're writing one of these is trying to make the jargon go away and replace it with something more clear. Is there anything else, that you typically find yourself doing when you sit down and you write one of these things? Any other things that would make it a good post for people to read?
I try to be really selective about what I take from the body of the paper, which sounds kind of terrible to say it that way, but I look at the introduction to see how they're setting up the background science, and I look at their conclusions to make sure I understand like what really happened in the paper and what they want people to take away. And I'm usually pretty sparse with the middle stuff, just because that's really dense for people, and most of the main information should be reiterated in the conclusion anyways. So I try to take, a couple of plots to make it, more scientific and explain the methods, but I really try to shy away from, spending a lot of time explaining this really detailed stuff about what's happening in the post. A good post has to, grab people and make it seem like it's exciting, but also just, like, really get at the main point. Like, whenever I read a paper, it's like, what is the main point? What is the author trying to say? And then the other stuff, the details come later.
Yeah. So do you find yourself taking out a lot of the math from?
Definitely. Yeah. Some people are a little more mathy when they write posts. I don't think I've put any math into my posts. Plots, yes.
Post.
Yes. Plots, yes.
Some people would like
I
that.
don't think I put an equation in.
So do you have like a LaTeX editor in WordPress to do equations? Or?
You can do. Well, the LaTeX is okay, or you can do HTML characters. Okay. Well, the LaTeX looks a little funny sometimes, but people do it anyways.
Do you have a favorite or maybe least favorite piece of astronomy jargon that you've either come across in writing one of these posts or tried to explain in one of your posts?
Ooh, that's a tough question. I mean, I hate that people use so many acronyms. I try to not use the acronyms. Just like, no, unless it's really, really necessary. Like even something like AGN, active galactic nucleus, everyone uses it, and when I write, unless it's a post about AGN in which I'm saying it every other sentence, then I try to write out the full thing.
Okay.
So that's what my pet peeve is, just like I de-acronym things when I can.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And looking at the popular topics, it looks like if you look at the little tag cloud, observations seems to be really popular. So is there more observation than theoretical? And then exoplanets seems to be a very popular topic as well. What topics do you tend to focus on? Are you kind of all over the place?
Well, since I did research on galaxies, I would tend to go towards the galaxy evolution side of things. So, and usually observation. I don't know if I've written about a theory paper. I hope I have at some point. But yeah, a lot of sort of, that's sort of my fallback because, writing these things, sometimes it's great to explore other parts of astronomy, and I like doing that. But it's also helpful for me as a researcher to go into my own field and just go a little bit away from what I'm doing because you get so narrow really fast when you start doing research that I just wanted to get a little broader background in the topics that I was actually doing. And so that ended up being galaxy evolution for the most part, or star formation, or things like that for me. So it's helping my research a lot because I actually had better background for the stuff that I was doing.
That's great. That's great. So can I ask what kind of education research you're thinking about going into?
Sure. So what the project that I'm proposing to do, we'll see what happens. I guess when I decided to transition, I saw that a lot of the education research literature that I would read wasn't really propagated in the classes that I'd taken. And so my big question was, why aren't astronomy education researchers communicating with astronomy educators? Like, why is that not coming together? That turned into, we want to look at professional development workshops for faculty to see how effective those are, because that's the place where these two groups sort of collide. So that's what we would like to do, is sort of go into this a little bit and see what's happening in communication and what faculty are really learning at these workshops, and if it's enough to help them in their classes.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, that's definitely needed, is the implementation of all the good stuff that's coming out.
Have you started to do some of that yet, Alice?
A little bit. So we wrote a little mini proposal about what we would like to do, so sort of how we would evaluate the workshops, which is basically seeing how well the workshop presenters are teaching, and then doing surveys for the faculty. So I have, my committee, like Ed Prather's on my committee. Everyone sort of knows who he is. And Joe Reddish is in the physics department here. So I've got some people, and we put together the best we can for a plan. But since it's a weird thing that no one has done an astronomy education thesis at Maryland, I can't really go too far until the faculty say it's okay.
Okay. That's really exciting. You're really blazing a new path there. That's really cool.
Adventurous.
It is an adventure. It is definitely an adventure.
So we saw your poster at the Astronomical Society of the Pacific meeting, so ASP, trying to say the word before I use the acronym. So what kind of interactions did you have there with the Astrobites poster, and did you get any interesting feedback from people at the conference?
So I was a little bit surprised. This might come off as weird, but I was a little surprised at how many people hadn't heard of us.
Oh.
So because it's an educators conference, we thought that, oh, well, everyone already knows who we are, so most of our feedback will be, more high level. But a lot of people I talked to were like, I haven't heard of this, I'm going to go look at it. So I guess we haven't reached all the astronomy outreach and education people yet.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Do you find that at AAS meetings too, or is it more people have heard of you? I mean, AAS meetings are hugely overwhelming sometimes, but
Yeah, well, I can't say too much because I haven't been to AAS for Astrobites before. Okay. So the last at AAS I was at was when I started Astrobites, so I met a couple of people there, but I wasn't there as much. But my sense is that that's really publicizing us, and people haven't heard of us as much at AAS. And I'm sure a larger fraction of the people at the ASP meeting had heard of us, but I talked to a lot of people who were like, oh, I should check that out. That sounds cool.
Okay.
So we reach new people, and that's great.
Oh, you should do a little survey and see how people first heard of you, those that have and that read. And I can't remember how I first heard of you, but I've actually been getting the email, of the daily Astrobite post in my inbox for a couple of years.
Nice.
And
it might have been Phil Plate. That's my guess.
I found out before he did, like 2 minutes before he did, but still, I think.
So,
We heard about it around the same time. I can claim that.
Yeah. Well, that pie chart was on my poster, but I'm having trouble visualizing it right now.
I remember it
Phil
too.
Plate was a large piece of it. You know?
Yeah, no, Phil Plate has a large pie chunk.
Yes.
It happens on everyone's blogs. We understand. No, I think one of the founding members was a University of Virginia grad student or undergrad, and he had left for grad school, and so he like emailed us, and that's how I heard about it. So, yeah. So then, if not as many people at ASP heard about it, so ASP had a big Cosmos in the Classroom component. Which is all about teaching astronomy at, I think, primarily the undergrad level. So is there a lot of room for this to be implemented in undergrad?
Yeah, so we'd really like it to be used by more teachers in their undergrad classes. So that's something we've thought about pushing a bit more. So 3 of the Astrobites authors, so Nathan Sanders, Elizabeth Newton, and Susanna Kohler, wrote a paper last year, 2 years ago, about how you might use Astrobites in the classroom. And so part of that, some of the ideas were like you can assign reading that goes along with the class and have your students, complete assignments and reflect on them. Or you could have class projects where they use Astrobites as a model, or they use Astrobites to get background on something that they write or something that they present as a group. There's one other one, which I'm blanking on, but I'll remember in a minute.
I think you said this was Sanders and Kohler.
Yes.
Okay, great. I just found the paper
okay.
on Archive.
So you can go read it in the paper.
Things. I found it on Archive. Shocking. We're going to put that link again in the comments on the event page, and it'll be in the show notes on the YouTube page after the broadcast. So I'll put that.
Yeah, so we're definitely really interested to hear if people do use it in the classroom, like how they're using it and how it works, and what could be better, or if there's ways we can help. We're always happy to pitch in with things. So.
That's excellent. That's excellent. So we've got a couple suggestions. So Michael Jobin has it bookmarked, yay! And he said Astrobites are easy to chew on, which I guess is the point, right?
Yeah, they're bite-sized astronomy.
Yeah. Guido Bibra suggests a good mobile theme for reading on tablets. I don't know if you're involved in any of the web design stuff, but that's something to pass along. I don't know what mobile theme you guys have. And then a couple of people, so he and Charles Bell are saying that you guys should get a plug from Universe Today. So that's we
would be happy for a plug from Universe Today.
We can go pester Fraser Kane separately.
That's a great idea.
To check that out. But yeah, and within the education community as well, I think it's a great thing. And now I think you have a sister site within chemistry as well. Can you tell us anything about ChemBites?
Yes, ChemBites. I don't actually know any people from ChemBites, but there's ChemBites and there's also GeoSciBites, which just came out of ComSciCon. They're trying to get themselves off the ground.
Okay.
So there are more bites that are emerging that do the same thing for other subjects. So that's pretty exciting.
But astronomy is the leader.
Astronomy is the leader because astronomy is the coolest. But
yeah. Well, I mean, it's kind of expected. Again, when I was in grad school, it was expected that you subscribe to the AstroPH daily email, and you at least read the titles, if not the whole abstract. So this is a really good part of graduate school training as well. So very cool. Let's see.
I should also I can also advertise that we let undergrads do guest posts on our site too. So if there's any undergrads watching or interested, then they can submit a post and we'll publish about their research. So that doesn't have to be summarizing papers from the archive. It can be about what they're actually doing, and then we'll publish that.
Oh, that's very cool. So you hear that, undergrads in astronomy, go to Astrobites and not only read it, but see if you can do a guest post as well. Yeah, that was one of the questions that flew out of my head because it's well on today. Do you have undergrad writers? Have you done any? I know somebody asked about videos. Have you thought of doing any kind of videos or podcast or?
Well, this is the first video that Astrobites has been on, to my knowledge.
Welcome. Yeah, 30 authors 30 authors is a bit too many for a hangout, unfortunately.
It would be a lot.
But you could get 10 of you guys into a hangout, and that would be pretty cool.
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah. Do you have any teaching experience yourself, or have you thought about doing teaching in astronomy?
I do. So I've co-taught a class. I convinced my department that it would be a good idea.
Excellent.
And my co-teacher that it would be a good idea to let me co-teach a class. So this was an introductory class for the astronomy majors. So they were freshman majors. It was their second semester of taking astronomy. So it was nice for me because I could just pull in Astrobites references all the time when I was teaching. So that was really, really fun. And I've also taught a summer class in July, which was every day for 5.5 weeks going through, the introductory non-major astronomy material, which was a lot, but it was pretty fun.
Very cool. So you were able to bring that into your teaching then. So you have real-world examples then of bringing it into your teaching.
I do. I could have taken it farther. Actually, so I'm also teaching a class starting in the fall. So I'm working with this scholars program. It's for freshmen and sophomores, sort of kind of like an honors program. They do service and they have a colloquium. And so I'm teaching the sophomore colloquium, which is basically about astronomy and society and astronomy in the media. And so one of their projects is going to be to go out and find an astronomy news story from the last year or so, and then dissect like all the press releases it came from and see how the story has changed as it got propagated. So one of my suggestions for them will be to use Astrobites as a reference when they're trying to get background, because a lot of these students are engineers. They don't really have an astronomy background, even though it's an astronomy themed program. So I'll try to push it on them a little bit. We'll see how that works.
Have you seen this yourself when comparing? I don't know if you've done a post on something that hit the press as well. Can you compare what the press releases and news stories look like compared to what's actually in the research paper?
So I know some people who've done press release stories. I mean, we definitely go into more detail than something like a press release, and we. I think try to be a little more like reserved about what we're saying about the science, because press releases are very much trying to make it like as exciting as humanly possible. Yeah. And I think we do a little of that. Like I try to make the science sound exciting because we want our readers to be interested. But I think we're a little more middle ground and we're not as extreme with these things. And we show more of like the process. Like we really do try to show some of the science, like some of how it's being done. And I think that's an important piece.
Yeah, I think that's really important too, and I actually didn't think of it until you just said it now, but yeah, you've got a really nice showcase for the process of what it takes, to get the results out there and just to get them from the data, how that goes. So that's really, really valuable, really valuable. Have you ever thought of bringing the level down even lower than undergraduate level? Have you thought about like writing some of these topics or pieces for, high school or even younger?
I don't know if we've ever really discussed it. I mean, we're always curious to see, like, sometimes high school teachers say that they'll use Astrobites, or they'll talk about wanting to use Astrobites. So I don't really know how that goes, because it's a little, like, it's hard because it's a little above their level. Yeah. But it would be really interesting to do a lower bar. Astrobites.
Yeah, more general audience,
Yeah.
Well, because you guys are hitting a middle ground between the stuff that's being, produced for the general public, although general public is a very broad term also. There's different, levels of jargon knowledge within that, but you guys are hitting that middle ground in between the stuff for the general public and stuff that's happening just back and forth between the researchers, and so that's really important. For bringing up the next generation of astronomers.
Yeah, I mean, I think for high school students, like, it's a stretch for them, but I hope that they could get something out of it. Like when even as a, say an undergrad just reading a normal non-Astrobite paper, you're not getting the whole thing. I'm not getting the whole thing when I read all these papers. So, it's the skill of being able to skim the parts that are confusing. The main pieces.
Yep.
And we try to put in links and things like that for, I'm not going to explain spectroscopy in every post that talks about spectroscopy, but I will write a link to what it is.
Yeah.
like a Wikipedia or
Right.
something better.
Or if you want to know more, or if they want to know, you want to know how they analyze this, here's maybe a link, a resource that you could follow up on. So
yeah, and we're always really happy when people, oh, that was the fourth thing, I just remembered. So we're happy when people write comments below our posts. So that was the fourth suggestion for using it in the classroom, is to have people read Astrobites posts and then comment in the comment section, and then they can have dialogue with our authors and also with these other researchers who are reading the site, because we know we have this really broad audience, so it sort of pull other people in. So that's one option, for people who it's a stretch, like we'd like them to write comments and ask us questions, and we can try to rehash some things that are more confusing.
Have you guys ever had the paper authors comment or write to you guys on the site and say, hey, thanks for talking about our paper, or oh my gosh, you got everything wrong? Has any of that ever happened?
So actually the second Astrobite that I wrote, the author of the paper did email me, and he was very happy that I'd done it. He was like, this is great, and like, I'm so happy that you covered us, and I just found this, and yeah, that was awesome. And it's actually someone who I cite in my actual science paper, because it was, again, like a galaxies kind of paper. So I was like, oh, I know you. So that was fun. So occasionally, people will get good feedback from the authors. I don't think we've had any negative feedback from the authors.
That's good.
I don't know if that will ever happen, but it hasn't happened yet.
That's really good. That's really good. So I'm looking at the glossary page as well. So you've got some guides to things such as astrophysical software, guide to graduate school, guide to citizen science efforts, which we love here, of course. So there's different topics that not maybe 101 level, but maybe 201 level that you cover as well. Are there any topics you guys haven't covered yet that you think are coming up that you'd like to write about?
Well, so the glossary is something that people have wanted to develop a little bit more, so have like a fuller like description of these jargon terms that we use all the time. So that's a project that has been a little bit sidelined, or it got started and it didn't really get to full completion. So that might be something that comes up in the future, is that we flesh out the glossaries. And I know people would be interested in having like a class help them with that. So if there were a class of undergrads who wanted to contribute to the glossaries, I think that'd be very welcome by us. So that's another way you could use Astrobites in the classroom. Help us write the glossaries.
Very cool. Very cool. So I will point out again, if you want to comment, have questions, comments, anything like that, you can use the Google Plus event page, the YouTube channel. I should go and check the Twitter hashtag LearningSpace. Let us know, ask any questions of Alice about Astrobites, or about just kind of what we're talking about in terms of, trying to get through the astronomy literature and trying to get through the jargon and presenting it to undergrads. We have a comment from Guido Vibra, found an author in common between Universe Today and Astrobites, so you guys have a connection there. So yay!
Connection.
And is there an active social media presence with Astrobites as well?
Well, we do have a Twitter, so it's just @Astrobites is our Twitter account, and we have a Facebook page, which has also been doing pretty well. And now I've got the Tumblr with the pictures, with the plots. So
I'm very excited.
That's our social media reach. As far as we might have other social media, but those are the ones that come to mind. Okay.
Yeah, I'm very excited about the Tumblr, because you've got either looking at that, it's historical plots, and it's and things that are kind of like the well-known concepts. And although it's not the pretty astronomy pictures that you might see in the popular press, this is the really meaty, important stuff with an explanation. So that's really important as well. Just looking at a plot isn't always obvious.
Right, and I think that was the idea, was that these plots they have a lot of information in them, and people look at them and they don't understand what they're looking at, or like what's all the pieces. So just, you can take a whole paragraph and explain a plot, and it's not boring. Like, there's a lot of stuff in the plot.
Yeah, I think at least a paragraph.
Yeah.
Are the same 30 of you going to be like doing some of the astroplots then, or do you see that as more of a subgroup?
It's a subgroup right now. I think there's about 5 or 6 people doing the astroplots on the side. But anyone in the group is welcome to do it, but it just sort of sprouted off on the side.
Cool.
Side projects, very cool
Yes.
side projects.
Do you ever find that you want to do your own diagram or something different with the charts and diagrams when you do your Astrobite, or do you kind of not mess with that part?
I usually don't mess with that. Sometimes I'll take pictures from the internet, so that's something I do pretty frequently.
Okay.
You know, the papers don't necessarily have a picture of, like a press release picture of this galaxy that it's talking about. So that's something that I'll add in most of the time.
Yeah.
Or, yeah, sometimes there's diagrams that I'll take from Google to show basic phenomena. But for the most part, I'll stick with the plots in the paper and then, like, one image.
Okay.
You've got to have that artist conception of a blank,
Yeah.
or pretty space telescope image of the thing.
Yeah.
As that
Yeah.
eye-catching connection. So.
Yeah, the dots and lines are not always very eye-catching.
I'm just thinking, boy, if somebody were good at like cartooning and things, that always makes things fun, and people love to look at that and easy to read and all that. That would be kind of a fun project too.
That would be really cool. I don't know if any of us are good at cartooning.
I don't know.
I'm not.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't know. Couldn't be me.
But maybe someone is good at it. It would be cool.
Oh, so somebody who's got a little extra time, which of course. You're a grad student, you're not supposed to sleep or anything, so you can totally do that.
Yeah, all your free time.
Yeah, all your copious free time.
Yes.
Well, cool. So you have an application process now. So I wanted to remind people. So if you are a grad student in astronomy and want to check it out, do go to Astrobites and apply to write for the site. You get 2 years, and then they kick you out.
They nicely kick you out.
They nicely kick you. Yes, you retire. You move on to bigger things. Have there been any journalist ties, or are you guys all coming from the astronomy, from the science background?
I think we're all coming from the science background. I know, like, Susanna wants to go in that direction, I believe, but I don't know anyone who came out of that direction.
Okay.
I think it's all,
Yeah.
People have branched off. Not all of us have stayed in, like, the astronomy PhD track. But.
Yeah.
There might be some people that find that they really like this writing stuff, and they go off in that direction.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I think, ComSciCon, I think they probably talked about that a lot. People are interested in doing this journalism, so they brought in people who do, science communication and journalism and science writing. And so that's a really good opportunity for us as writers to, meet these people who and already have our writing on the internet. So, that's really nice publicity for us as individuals.
Excellent. So I'm going to wrap up with a few announcements, but I will, once I'm done with that, Alice, I'll give you the last few minutes to give us a party message about Astrobites. So our typical schedule for the CosmoQuest Hangouts is Friday is the weekly space hangout. We'll be talking about the news stories, the big press releases that are coming out, hosted by Fraser Kane of Universe Today, and there's a whole group of us that join in and bring our favorite space and astronomy stories to the discussion. So that's noon Pacific on Friday. The virtual star party is Sunday night, 9 p.m. Pacific. Our astronomers will hook up their telescopes, their backyard telescopes, some amazing backyard telescopes, up to their webcam, so you can see the planets, you can see nebula, you can see all the cool stuff they're seeing in the night sky without leaving your house. It's like stargazing for lazy people. Totally check out the virtual star party. And I had I have to find it. We actually have a sponsorship for the Hangout. So 365 Days of Astronomy produces the audio from all these Hangouts and puts it out in podcast format. You can sponsor 365 episode or a week of episodes, or you could now sponsor a Hangout. So let me bring up sponsorship information for this week. For this week's from George. Let me grab this. Okay, so this Hangout is sponsored by the Heliochromologists to honor all the many professional astronomers who publicly present to us the makeup of the cosmos, sometimes known as cosmetology. So, little winky face from George, your friendly neighborhood heliochromologist. So thank you, George, for sponsoring this this hangout and its subsequent audio production on 365 Days of Astronomy. So yeah, go to cosmoquest.org/blogs/365 Days of Astronomy, or just Google it, and you can find out how you can donate to sponsor an episode of the podcast, or now the Hangouts. So that is really cool as well. So yeah, that's our upcoming Hangout schedule. Alice, why don't you leave us with some parting thoughts about Astrobites and maybe what it's meant to you and your career path?
Sure. So, I mean, Astrobites has been a great experience for me. I mean, I like working with these other astronomy graduate students who are really enthusiastic about communicating science and being better at talking to undergraduates and the general public. It's helped me a lot as a writer and as a science communicator. I mean, I got into it because I really enjoy teaching and I wanted to have as much teaching as possible. But it's been really fun to reach such a wide audience of undergrads. I mean, so many people read these posts, and I just feel like it's kind of empowering and fun to get to such a wide audience and talk about something that I really like. So it's been great, and I've had a lot of fun doing it. I'm actually retiring now, so I hope that other people take my spot and enjoy it as well. But yeah, it's been really fun, and I think it's a great group of people who are doing it. I have a lot of admiration for the people who started it and the people who are still writing. So yeah.
That's great. Yeah, they got the ball rolling, and it's just seems to have been picking up momentum the whole time. So that's really cool.
Yeah, no, it's definitely taken off and in a really good way. So I hope it keeps going for a long time.
Yes. We've been notified by Guido that there is an Astrobites Google Plus page. I think I came across it when I was creating the event for this. So get on your colleagues to revive that Google Plus page. Get themselves in Fraser Cain's Science Circle, because that's a good place to be. So we'll share that out. We'll share that out as well. So thank you, Alice, so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Alice.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah. And thank you, everyone, for watching this week's episode of Learning Space.
Okay.
It takes some time. I've gotten faster over the year and a half. But yeah.
How do you guys choose the paper that you're going to write about?
So for me, originally I would just comb through the archive, the whole archive myself, and for the last week or so beforehand, and look for things that basically I'd find a paper that I knew why it was interesting. So if I could read sort of the introduction and the conclusions and say in a couple sentences, like, this is why the paper is exciting and this is why the paper is important, then I would usually write about it. As I got lazier, sometimes I would go on Vox Charta, which is the online voting site for the archive. So this is something that the University of Maryland uses for our Astro PH discussion.
Oh, wait, what is this called? I'm not.
It's Vox Charta, VOXCHARTA. Vox Charta.
Yeah.
But yes, so you can see if you click, you can go to your institution, but you can also see votes from all institutions that are using this site. And so that's one way that I can find out what other people think are interesting in that week if I don't have time to go through the whole archive. And I sometimes pick from there.
Can you explain what archive is
Yes,
and what Astro PH is for
yes,
some of our listeners?
That was a little jargony.
No,
I realized that while I was saying it. But no, so the archive is just where people post their own papers. So sometimes people wait until their papers are...
Just got a comment from Charles Bell on the event page about some breaking news, which we will definitely cover this story in the Weekly Space Hangout on Friday, but a quick mention is that NASA's infrared telescope, the WISE mission, has been put back into service to look for near-Earth asteroids. So, yay, protecting the planet! That news just broke all over Twitter, the Twitter sphere. So, thank you, Charles, for that notification, and we'll cover that on Friday for sure. I can't imagine talking about having a big asteroid story and not having Fraser Cain want to talk about it. So. Okay, so on to the main topic for today's show. We are talking to Alice about Astrobites, which is a popular astronomy blog. See, hold on again. Astrobites. You can check out the website at astrobites.com. I've got a link on the event page as well. We'll put it in the show notes too. So Alice, why don't you tell us a little bit about what it is you do, where you are, what your position is, and then tell us a little bit about Astrobites.
Sure. So I'm a fourth-year graduate student in astronomy at the University of Maryland. I am sort of in a weird place right now, so I decided to do education research instead of normal astronomy research. So I've been in a little bit of a transition right now.
Cool, very cool.
Figuring that stuff out. But before that, I was studying.
Everyone, welcome to Learning Space. I am Nicole Gugliucci, postdoc with CosmoQuest. This is our weekly show on all things astronomy, education, and outreach, learning, sharing, space, all kinds of fun topics along those lines. So thanks for joining us again. I have with me my co-host, Georgia Bracey.
Hi there.
Hello. And we are joined by Alice Olmstead.
Hello.
Hi. So
I have a sign.
Oh yes, we have an analog lower third, so y'all can see that. If anyone knows how to make lower third work on a mobile device, let us know. Otherwise, that is awesome. That is awesome.
Hi everyone, welcome to Learning Space.
Oh, there's an echo, Georgia. Georgia, I'm getting an echo from your side.
Okay, how's that?
I think that's better. I'll let you know. Okay. Woohoo! Okay, so let you guys know to share the link, and we thank you for that. Also, if you want to comment, you can comment on the event page on Google Plus where this is airing, and any place shared from that should show up as well in our comment tracker. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can leave a comment there, and we'll be watching the YouTube stream as well. Comment tracker does not pick up the Twitter feed automatically, but I will be keeping an eye on the Learning Space hashtag if you want to leave us a comment, leave us a question, whatever. Let us know what's going on.
Galaxies and star formation and gravitational lensing and all this really awesome stuff.
Yeah.
But as far as Astrobites, so I started writing for Astrobites about a year after the whole thing got started. So it's a blog that's for undergraduates. Most of our posts are summarizing literature from the astronomy journals at a level that's more appropriate for undergraduate physical science majors. So people who are interested in astronomy, might want to go into that themselves, but are still very intimidated by the astronomical literature, which can be really, really dense to go through.
Yeah.
I think all of the authors have sort of experienced that, and that's been a big drive for why the site was created. So I just sort of emailed them at one point and said, hey, I'd like to write with you guys. And at that point, it was a little informal, so they basically said okay. And I started writing for them for a year and a half. So we have about 30 grad students at a time. Everyone writes one post a month, all volunteer. And it's just, sort of digesting the astronomical news and writing it in a way that's much easier for people to access. So I just got myself into that, and it's been really fun. Writing and editing other people's stuff.
That's awesome.
How long does it take to read a paper and write up the post for you typically?
For me, probably a couple of days,
Mm-hmm.
Depending on how fast I'm being. So I can usually write it in a day and then have another day to edit it, and that tends to be enough. Approved by the journal. So you send in a paper, it gets refereed, you edit it, and then you eventually get it approved by the journal. So some people will wait until it's approved, and some people will just do it as soon as they send it to the editor. It's kind of a personal preference thing.
Yeah.
So I also usually try to look for things that have already been vetted by the referee before I write something about it. But yeah, so there's just a huge influx of papers. I mean, there's at least 50 papers probably a day go up there, so it's a lot for everyone to read. So yeah, this is just where everyone pulls from, is looking at the archive. And AstroPH is just the server, I guess, that has all the papers on it.
Yeah, that's the astronomy specific ones, because there's a bunch of physics topics that are not astronomy as well.
That's right.
And the neat thing about Archive, so Archive is ARXIV. It is all of these papers are available for free. They're not behind a paywall because they're technically preprints. It's before it's ready for journal. Although it's the same journal quality stuff, so it's really good. If it is technically accessible, but whether or not the language is accessible is another story. Charles Bell comments, those astronomy journals are tough reading. I wish they could each do a video and explain it in their own words. What do you?
Yeah, that would be great. I saw something. I wish I remembered which school did this,